Just after he was addressed by the three witches who had given him a prophecy of kingship and power, Macbeth performs a soliloquy that, through his use of various symbols, loaded diction, and poetic devices, gives the audience an understanding of his conflicted tone. Macbeth begins. Oh, I should probably read it first. Okay. Two truths are told, as happy prologues to the swelling act of the imperial theme. I thank you, gentlemen. This supernatural soliciting cannot be ill, cannot be good. If ill, why hath it given me earnest of success, commencing in a truth? I am Thane of Cawdor. If good, why do I yield to that suggestion, whose horrid image doth unfix my hair, and make my seated heart knock at my ribs, against the use of nature? Present fears are less than horrible imaginings. My thought, whose murder is yet but fantastical, shakes so my single state of man that function is smothered in surmise, and nothing is but what is not. Just after he was addressed by the three witches who had given him a prophecy of kingship and power, Macbeth performs a soliloquy that, through his use of various symbols, loaded diction, and poetic devices, gives the audience an understanding of his conflicted tone. Macbeth begins. So I'm going to kind of go back and read through as I go along. Macbeth begins. Two truths are told as happy prologues to the swelling act of the imperial theme. The two truths that Macbeth is referring to here are, one, Macbeth is the Thane of Glamis, and two, Macbeth is the Thane of Cawdor. The witches appear to foresee the future. Macbeth's appointment as Thane of Cawdor took place directly after the supernatural beings' confrontation of him, which in turn engraved the third prophecy of the witches into Macbeth's mind. All hail Macbeth, thou shalt be king hereafter. Macbeth describes these truths using a simile that compares them to various components of a play: prologue, act, and theme. Shakespeare is directly referring to Macbeth's life and his outlook on the future as a play, as something fictional, as something that is not. It is here that Macbeth's unsure tone is introduced. By using the characteristics of a play and describing his future, Macbeth is emphasizing the troubles that develop when this natural tendency of goodness is mixed with supernatural prediction. This natural goodness is lost to the powerful draw of greed later on in the play, as Macbeth feels he must abandon his humanity to become powerful. This internal struggle helps to build the tone of Macbeth's soliloquy. Adding to his conflicted tone, Macbeth uses the word swelling to anticipate his future control as king. The connotation of swelling can take two drastically different paths here. The swell is either a slow progression to power and rule, or it's implicit of pain, injury, and internal bleeding. Swelling act of the imperial theme. Macbeth must show these two connotations in his performance. He is balancing on the precipice of flourish and collapse. It's this ambiguity that makes Macbeth's tone throughout the performance of this passage paramount. It must capture the internal fracas between temptation and morality. Next, Macbeth attempts to understand his predicament. This supernatural soliciting cannot be good, cannot be ill. The acknowledgement of the supernatural identity of soliciting here is important to note. Macbeth is attempting to comprehend his fate, but by definition, things that are supernatural are beyond comprehension, logic, and control. He is also contrasting two firm statements by reciting them back to back. Macbeth is sure that the temptation is bad, but is also sure that it is good. Such reluctant assurance can only lead to a muddled and insecure tone. Macbeth goes on, if ill, why hath it given me earnest of success, commencing in his truth? If good, why do I yield to that suggestion, whose horrid image doth unfix my hair, and make my seated heart knock at my ribs, against the use of nature? A conflicted tone here comes not only in Macbeth's use of contrasting rhetorical questions, but is also accentuated by the irony of Macbeth not having control over his own body. Macbeth wants nothing more than to be in control. However, he lets his body become independent of his mind. Macbeth's hair stands on end and his heart beats faster. To dig up the roots of this physical reaction to the mere thought of killing King Duncan, we must look at how Macbeth brings the thought alive through anthropomorphism. The thought of killing Duncan has become its own being, and has developed a mind of its own in the eyes of Macbeth. In his final portion of speech, Macbeth changes his tone slightly, as he brings to light his ambitions and his means of achieving them. A more determined tone comes from his defining use of diction in words like smothered and murdered, a process to finally attain the throne. Thank you.